Matt Gaetz finds a recording of Adam Schiff asking the Russians for dirt on President Trump. The Florida Republican posted an audio tape on Twitter today of a phone call between Schiff and an alleged Russian prankster. Congressman Schiff is one of the top Democrats, of course, behind the impeachment inquiry related to the Trump-Ukraine phone call. But on the newly discovered tape, Schiff is asking Russian TV personalities for dirt on Trump. Gaetz says this serves as evidence of Schiff's hypocrisy.
So you have recordings of both Sobchak and Buseva where they're discussing the compromising material on Mr. Trump?
Absolutely.
Well, obviously we would welcome a chance to get copies of those recordings.
Congressman Gaetz says Schiff probably thinks he can seek foreign dirt on his political opponents while President Trump cannot. Meanwhile, as House Democrats continue to press for impeachment, Gaetz tells One America's John Hines the difference between impeachment reality and impeachment fake news.
You had a hearing on impeachment recently, so-called impeachment, I guess, because it's kind of not really an impeachment process, but it kind of is, according to your Democratic colleagues.
It's impeachment in drag, as we've called it.
And as I understand it, that to actually have an impeachment, you have to pass legislation on the floor. That's correct?
Yes. In every other circumstance where an impeachment inquiry is begun, the full House takes a vote to instruct the Judiciary Committee on an impeachment inquiry.
They don't want to do that because?
They don't have the votes, John. There are not 218 votes on the floor of the United States House of Representatives to start an impeachment inquiry today. And so because Democrats don't want to stand on one side or the other and take a vote, you now have a circumstance where the Judiciary Committee has functionally gone rogue. At the end of the day, it's my expectation that Democrats will overreach in much the way that some might say Republicans overreached when it came to Bill Clinton, and that ultimately that will inure to the political benefit of Donald Trump. But it is a shame that the country has to go through it.
So when you're walking down a hallway here in the Longworth building, or you're sharing an elevator with one of your Democratic colleagues who's maybe a Joe Sixpack Democrat, who's not in leadership, maybe he's been in a few years, what does he say about this? Does he say, hey, you know, we're actually spinning our wheels, but it's something we got to do because we got to get it out of the system? What do you hear?
Well, I mean, in private conversations, Democrats, some seem to acknowledge that the prospects for an impeachment are deader than a Joe Biden political rally. But they are increasingly speaking out publicly and boisterously. We heard Jared Huffman, a rather moderate Democrat from New Jersey, come out and say, hey, look, you know, it looks like we're not getting anything done, or we're not putting the American people first. We're just putting our own political sense of advantage first. And Anthony Brindisi from New York came out and said, look, my constituents are worried about prescription drug costs. They're worried about infrastructure. They're worried about the economy. And we don't seem to be doing anything to advance those goals by having so much focus placed on impeaching a president who won the election. But the reality is, Democrats are trying to impeach the president on everything because they have no facts on anything. You know, if there was some silver bullet, that's what you'd be hearing over and over again.
Final question. Offer a prediction. Does the president win Florida?
The president wins Florida, and he gets reelected because, you know what? In all these polls that I see, there is a substantial number of people who just don't tell the pollster what they're thinking, you know, and I think that those are Trump voters. So this is going to be a base turnout election. I think the president's base is fired up. Florida gets redder every day because we got 850 people a day who move to my great state, and they're escaping the high taxes and intense regulatory burdens in blue states, and so they're starting to be a little more conservative in their voting habits when they get to the Sunshine State.